So as you probably know, the next campaign pack is going to be The Curse of the Vampire Coast. This is a bit of a surprise to most people. I think a lot of people thought it was possible that they would do this, but most everybody was expecting that the Dogs of War, the Southern Realms, would be the next campaign expansion. Creative Assembly, however, has chosen to surprise us. It's my suggestion that we look through the video today and then go through it again, and I will call out all the units that we can see in it. I think that Creative Assembly has actually spoiled most of the roster. I've counted about 20 different units hinted at.
You wouldn't believe us. The tales we could tell. Though, truth be told, it started very poorly. I was one. But now we are many. We all agree on one thing. To sail the coast. Hunt down those lizard trinkets. And we will find them. We will put ourselves back together. Fortune favors the infamous.
So let's watch the trailer again. I've skipped ahead a little bit so we can cut out some of the things that aren't useful to us. And I'll start picking out some of the units that we can see in the trailer.
I was one. But now we are many.
This is Luther Harkon. He's talking about how his mind was split. He's certifiably insane at this point.
To sail the coast.
He'll be the faction leader, of course. He is the vampire pirate.
And we will find them.
Alright, so we're about to see a Morngul. This character here, monster, is a Morngul. He had, on tabletop, he had the ability to resist missiles, and he had the ability to heal the damage that he dealt to his opponents. I've seen later on in the film, he comes apparently in a unit, so a monstrous infantry unit, so there was going to be several of them. The missile resistance that he did have probably be about 20% in the game. It will possibly also come with a magic resistance of 20% because its missile resistance on tabletop actually extended into magic missiles and direct damage spells. I expect he'll probably run around at about 60 speed. He'll probably be your fast infant, or not fast infantry. This is going to be your cavalry unit. This is going to be your only cavalry unit, and it'll be like the Rat Ogres for the Skaven, probably. If we move forward a little bit from here, you're going to start seeing some zombies, and they're going to reveal about 4 different types of zombies. This gang here, if you notice, this one has a handgun, so we're going to have a handgunner unit of zombies. Expect them to be a lot like the Empires, except for possibly more units and definitely worse aim and maybe slightly lower damage. This guy here, he has a cutlass and a pistol. So again, this will be a lot like a zombie version of the Empire Free Company. This character in the back, I don't know if we'll see this as an actual unit variety, but this guy is actually carrying a halberd. I don't know if we'll actually get charge defense on zombies if they do come out with a halberd or spear variant of the zombies. Could be a lot like the Skaven slaves, where they have a bonus versus large but no actual charge defense. Can't tell you which one in the background it is, but one of these other ones is a zombie deck gunner. He's effectively equipped with a swivel gun. So in tabletop, that was basically the same as a handgun, except for it had a larger range. Expect it to have a range of probably 180 meters. Nice to know that Luther Harkon will be getting a pistol. Looks pretty nice.
One piece at a time. We will put ourselves back together.
In just a second, we're going to see a big dude run across the screen from here to his right side, and then there will be the remnants of him as an explosion. This is a bloated corpse. Bloated corpses are exactly that. They are corpses filled with rotting necrotic gases that in combat explode upon dying. I mean, they basically run up and explode. They're suicide bombers. That said, this sort of incarnation is much bigger than what we would have seen on a tabletop, so it is potentially going to be a little bit more survivable, a little bit more heavy duty, maybe more of a monstrous creature than just a mere suicide bomber. One thing to note is that he will probably have poison attacks like on tabletop. Other than that, there's nothing really to say other than probably fairly resilient, a good arrow sponge, a nice distraction carnifex, if you will. There he is. And boom, there he was. These little bat things, which we'll see in the future, are deck droppers. You'll actually notice that the zombies in the hands or claws of these fell bats will actually be shooting their rifles, which will be nice. We'll have a weird zombie gyrocopter type unit.
Fortune favors the infamous.
So here's the deck droppers again. Also, here is a Terrorgeist, and this is basically a cut and paste Terrorgeist, although they're calling it a Death Shriek Terrorgeist. There was a special rule of add-on that you could buy for a tabletop Terrorgeist that gave them a breath attack. So I don't really know how this Death Shriek Terrorgeist will be different from the original Terrorgeist that we see in tabletop, or sorry, not tabletop, in Total War. Maybe he'll be more of a ranged version. Maybe he'll be more of a suicide bomber, because that was another add-on you could buy. You could buy an add-on for the Terrorgeist that when it died, it exploded. We do know it will be a mount option, and I believe Luther Harkon can take it as a mount. I think it's his only mount option. I don't know. I think this is a little bit of a copy pasta. I don't know if it really fits the theme, but it might fit the roster in the sense of it provides something that the roster desperately needed. So these are hulking abominations. These are basically the reanimated remains of ogres. You can actually see that this right here is an ogre's face, the remnants of a face. They didn't have any real special rules other than the fact that they were big zombies. You know, they had lots of wounds, they did lots of damage, they were strong, they were tough, but they didn't have anything particularly special about them. Whether or not the Creative Assembly has created additional cool things for them, who knows? I wouldn't mind just having a cheap monstrous infantry unit that just has a lot of mass and a lot of resilience. Also, in a few seconds here, we will see some more Mourngulls hitting the field, and you'll notice that there are actually several of them. One, see, there's another one back there, there's another one over here. So this is probably confirmation that they are a unit, a monstrous infantry unit. In tabletop, they were only a single entity unit, but if they want to make a monstrous infantry, that's more the scale of Total War versus tabletop anyways. So here we actually have again, these are the deck gunners. This is, like I said before, a unit of zombies shooting swivel guns, effectively. And this gentleman right here looks to be the ship White, the equivalent of the White King in the Vampire Counts roster. It's unclear whether he'll get a pistol or not. He could have a pistol on tabletop. He also had lighter armor than the White King in the Vampire Counts roster. He clearly is going to be one of our heroes. He might be our only hero. He's the only hero that they've spoiled thus far. Here we have a zombie carronade. These are not quite as good as Empire Great Cannons, but these are cannons for the undead, so that'll be fun. And then up in the background, we have the Queen Bess. This is a unique cannon, mortar, I don't know what you call it at this point, doomsday device potentially. This is actually the cannon off of a Empire hammer ship, I want to say, or Heldenhammer, I can't remember. It is a big gun that's supposed to be on a big boat, and these crazy zombies have brought it onto land. I'm wondering, with the size and scale of this gun, if it's actually going to be something we can move, or if it's just you deploy it and you shoot it. They have said that it will shoot a fairly large projectile, as you can imagine, but that the projectile upon landing will create a large shockwave, knocking down, disrupting other units, giving them a slow debuff, something of that sort. This is going to be our Rotting Leviathan. In this case, it's actually a Rotting Prometheus, which is a giant crab sea monster. There's not much to say. It'll probably be a lot like an undead version of the Arachnarok spider. It does have a little bit of a crow's nest on its back, or at least some of them do. I don't know if they're going to be something you can ride, something that somebody will be in there shooting, like the goblins on the back of an Arachnarok spider, but this is going to be one of our big monstrous units. Also in the background, you can start seeing the Necrofex Colossi. Apparently there's going to be 2 variations on that. These were in the Monstrous Arcanum, and I'll start talking about them in a little bit here. Oh, one more thing to note about this Prometheus. They've created 2 versions of the Prometheus. There's another smaller version of the Prometheus, more of a hermit crab. It's blue. And the unit card, which I'll show to you later, actually has a couple zombies on the back of it. It's going to come in a small unit. Monstrous cavalry, monstrous infantry, really hard to say, but a unit of monstrous beasts. So we'll have that as an option as well. So here's the Necrofex Colossi. And you can actually see a zombie up in the crow's nest here, and there's a crow's nest on this one. This one here has a flamethrower, and this one here has a cannon. I believe these will be 2 different versions of the same beast, so to speak. One thing to mention is that in some of the promotional material, it looks like one of our potential other legendary lords, Count Noctilus, Van Carson, who took to the sea, and the actual Grand Admiral of the Dread Fleet. He's actually seemingly riding one of these, so this might be another mount option for lords. Hard to say at this point, but it would be very impressive. Oh, I guess I should go into the rules for these suckers. They have massive regeneration. They acted as a boost to spellcasters of the Winds of Death and the lore of vampires. And they also provided debuff to lore of life and lore of light casters, I believe it was. Other than that, they could actually have a lich entubed within them, so to speak, and actually be spellcasters in their own right. So we might see sort of a Hero Titan ability or a Hero Titan upgrade for these, where they actually have some bound spells within them. However, considering that they added cannons to them and added flamethrowers to them, they may or may not do that. They also might just, you stick a vampire on top of one of them, or we might actually see a lich hero, so to speak, of some sort appropriated for the Vampire Coast. Not sure, but maybe they do that. Maybe you could take this as a mount for an actual lich, again providing spell casting capacity. Other than that, it fought in melee a lot like a giant. You rolled on a table and saw what you did. This unit here is a unit of ghosts. Obviously, they are more or less cut and paste banshees and turned into a unit. One of the heroes for the Vampire Coast was the Siren, which was much like a banshee, and apparently here they've tried to make a unit out of sirens. Can't say much about them other than I hope that with this redux of the vampire counts that they're doing, that they actually make ethereal units worth a damn, because right now Karen Wraiths are useless, and if the sirens are balanced in the same way as Karen Wraiths, they will be pretty much useless as well. But let's cross our fingers, let's hold out hope, and let's move forward. This is the only other thing that is being revealed to us, and this is the Merworm. I don't know if the Merworm is going to be an actual unit that you can use in Total War. In Tabletop, it was in the Monstrous Arcanum, and it can be fielded by a number of different factions. Most notably, it came out as a High Elf unit in the Storm of Chaos, and that's actually its first mention. I'm guessing that this is going to be a campaign-only item or creature. Maybe you'll have to fight against it once, but I'm not getting the impression that we're going to see this as a fieldable unit. So let's move on to some of the promotional material. Here, right behind Luthor Harkon, you'll see a couple dogs. These are scurvy dogs. They're in every way like dire wolves, except for the fact that they're supposed to be domesticated dogs as opposed to wolves, and I'm a little disappointed that they didn't at least take the mane off of them to make them at least stand out as being slightly different than the Vampire Coasts, or Vampire Counts. Again, a bit of a copy pasta. I feel like they could have just, tweaked them a little bit to make them look a little bit more unique, give the Vampire Counts or Coast a little bit more personality and flavor. And this one here, you can actually see on the top of that Necrofex Colossus, you can actually see someone wearing a red hat, and it actually looks a lot like Count Noctilus's hat. This could be indeed confirmation that Count Noctilus is in the game. I hope we see him. I think it's almost a guaranteed that we do. He's kind of the most important vampire to ever sail the seas, aside from Luthor Harkon himself. I mean, arguably, he's more important than Luthor Harkon. He had an entire game called Dreadfleet, which he was the main antagonist of. So here we can see the smaller Prometheus that actually come in a unit. If you don't notice, there's in the Prometheus in the front there, you can actually see a zombie's head poking out from behind the back. And here again, you can actually see their unit card there down on to the right. It's clearly got two zombies standing on its back. They probably have guns. It looks like they have guns. So expect them to, I don't know, snail around and shoot cannons. Also, you'll notice that on the left-hand side, to the left of Luthor Harkon, and also the left, as far as the unit cards are concerned, we can see the Depth Guard. These look a lot like some sort of elite Graveguard unit, but with halberds. And kind of like the Aspiring Champions, very, very small unit. Alright, so the last thing we need to talk about is the legendary lords. Of course, this gentleman in front of us is legendary lord Luther Harkon. To the right, we see what is most definitely Count Noctilus. Uh, the hat is a dead giveaway. I'll try and bring up a picture of Count Noctilus later. Um, this character here, however, looks to be Anessa Saltspite, I believe is her name. She's actually originally a living hero, and she might still be living. Uh, Apparently, they originally said that there would be 4 undead lords, and they had to stealth edit it to just 4 lords, so maybe she's still alive technically. But she comes out of Dreadfleet, and actually she was against Count Noctilus originally, which isn't necessarily game breaking or lore breaking, considering all these pirate lords seem to have to compete against each other to win. So you can definitely see, though, right down here, it looks like those indeed are the peg legs, because she cut off her own legs because she was born with a more of a flipper type arrangement. And these little bobby pins are real dead giveaway because she actually has something very much like that, although her artwork, it's usually on the other side, but this is most definitely her, whether you like that or not. A lot of people would have preferred to have her be part of the Dogs of War, would prefer to have her on the other side. It is a little strange for her to be controlling zombies. Then this character is a literal who. We don't know who he is, or she is. Hard to say what it is. It's definitely a spellcaster. It's definitely got a reef for hair and shoulder pads. This is either a duck foot or a fan. Kind of looks like this might be a pistol grip right here, and that could be the trigger mechanism, the the flint for the lock. But it also, duck foots are supposed to go across and not up and down, so a little bit of a question as to what this is. The only real guess is that this could be Louis Cypher, who apparently is a Neckarch vampire. If you know, Neckarchs are the spell casting sort of bloodline of the vampires, and apparently he got the great idea to eat elven waystones, had a small snack in the Bretonnian lands, or the Wood Elf lands, and then decided he was going to build himself a boat and sail the High Elf islands of Uthlan and eat as many more as he could. More or less. Very similar to Grom the Paunch. Could be Louis Cypher. That's the only real guess that would fit the bill. It could be a complete made-up character. One thing I do want to mention is I'm actually pretty disappointed that we are not going to see Van Geist. Van Geist was another not a vampire. He was actually a ghost captain of a ghost ship in the Dread Fleet. Also, another Dreadfleet character of note would be the Screech. Anyways, he's an undead Skaven. I can kind of see why they skipped on him, though, because having a Skaven lord that is undead without having his undead Skaven zombies would be a little weird. Arguably, you could say the same about the Ghost Pirate Captain without his Ghost Pirate underlings, I guess you'd say. But that looks like that's the lineup. Luther Harkon, Count Noctilus, Anessa Saltspite, and a literal who. Nobody knows. So this is a picture of Count Noctilus, and as you can see in this image here, there is a character in the top of this, and if you zoom in, you can see it a little better. This is kind of his hat, it's got that same sort of look to it. Obviously, you're looking at it from the opposite angle, but it does definitely seem to be Count Noctilus. On the other hand, this is Anessa Saltspite. And remember, these are those bobby pins I was talking about. Also notice this sea urchin that's sort of on her waist. You'll notice that is also in the silhouette on the Total War Warhammer product page or whatever. And here we can also see another image which seems to have Anessa Saltspite. You can see the bobby pins right there, same red cap. So it very well may be that she is one of our captains. In fact, it's pretty much confirmed. this gentleman is also strangely alive. Some people are suggesting that maybe she will use some sort of a hybrid faction of humans plus some of the sea monsters from the undead or something. I don't know. But there you have it.